What a morning. So I was going to wait until CCP kind of figured out all their mess with this patch and, them breaking Skinner and everything. But they keep deferring the server restart and that hotfix. So I figure we'll just have to go out here and do some mining while we wait. We're going to be out in the Mackinac today. This is episode 102. And unfortunately, since they basically just select all, delete all for Skinner, we have to be out here in the ugly default skin. But actually, we can fix that. Until they actually fix Skinner, we'll put a Blood Raider back on, just so we won't have to look at the ugly default skin. But we're going to be just going after some Veldspar in this episode, and also because we're just trying to like resupply the industry alt. And we're going to talk about ISK, we're going to talk about plex, we're going to talk about spending and saving, and kind of what my experiences in that area have been. And because I've seen a lot of comments on the channel about the amount of plex that I hold and everything, and I figured I will try to give some insight into that and how that became a thing. Now, I don't buy plex with real dollars. I basically every time I get to like 10 billion in ISK, I will just convert it into plex, because I usually just hold it for long term, and by long term I mean like many years. So if you've been watching the series and you've been kind of eagle-eyed, you've probably seen that plex balance kind of go up ever so slowly, and that's really kind of the source of that. Now, I think a lot of people would go crazy with the amount of plex, but I've one of my main goals, and if you've been following the channel for any amount of time, you know that my main goal is net worth and just kind of getting to 1 trillion, right? And that requires saving, that requires not spending money on crazy stuff. Doesn't mean I haven't. I've definitely spent my share of ISK in the past, and I've learned a lot in terms of controlling my spending to kind of help facilitate my goal here. I'm trying to get everything set up right now. I'm not doing what I normally do is I normally record mining and then I just commentary over it. Today we are live commentary, and we'll probably be out here for at least to fill up the Mackinac here. And I just wanted to get this like at least one mining session done, get this video done while CCP kind of figures out all their craziness. But kind of going back, when I first started playing, was in high sec, everything was new. Every time I would skill up, into like being able to fly an Orca or a Hulk, I was buying ships. I was like buying all these things. I had alts, and so a lot of my ISK was going towards facilitating implants and ships for them. Once I kind of got to the point where I had done a lot in terms of not just mining but PvE in general, my spending went down, right? When you get really good at situational awareness and you get good at not losing ships, and you won't need to replace ships, so that's a big source of like saving ISK, and eventually being able to turn it into plex. Also, back in the day, like living really close to Jita, we were like not very far from Jita. It was, the closer you live to a hub like that, the easier it is to spend, because you're only so far away from getting whatever you need. And the inverse kind of happens in nullsec. In nullsec, you are not near a trade hub, and so whenever you do like a logistics, like whenever you like buy a bunch of stuff in Jita and you need to fill a certain cubic meters to make it worth it, monetarily worth it, you start buying stuff when you're in nullsec in case you need it down the road, so that if you do need it, you have it, and you don't have to wait for several days for it to get out to you. So spending can be really high in nullsec too, just as more of a proactive more of a proactive kind of side, whereas like living in high seg near a trade hub would be like reactive, like, oh, I just got into this new ship and now I want to go to the trade hub and just, you know, fill it out and do what you got to do. Luckily, I, you know, over the years I've gotten used to kind of knowing what I like to do in the game, keeping the assets that I need and nothing more. Like, I don't carry any spare modules, I don't carry any spare ships or anything. If I lose a ship, I'll just go buy it again at that time. Instead, I just keep everything in ISK or plex form, because ISK and plex is vastly more easy to move around than ships and modules and things like that. The closest I've come to like being, you know, stockpiling assets has probably been a few months ago, when I just kind of like blanketed bought a bunch of mining stuff, but we ended up just doing a bunch of video coverage on all that stuff, retrievers, and everything. Once I kind of got a lot of that content made, I liquidated all that stuff. I also don't use ship insurance either. So I've never used ship insurance. I've never seen the value. It's, you get a little bit of ISK even on an uninsured ship, and usually the cost for premium insurance is just not worth what you end up getting. It's not even we were close to where the ship is worth. Now, that being said, insurance is not really supposed to be like, you know, pay for the ship and fit completely. It's supposed to just kind of like lighten the load on replacing it. But I found it just a lot easier to save your money and not do the insurance. Just collect the uninsured if you lose it, and let that go towards it. So that's another thing too. But other than that, just saving and not, you know, buying stuff I don't need. Like, if I'm going to buy a ship, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be using it at least on a daily basis, if not every couple of days. And the activity I do with that ship needs to be kind of working towards the ROI for that. If I don't end up using it, then I will usually liquidate it or something like that. I try not to liquidate ships until I've at least made my money back on them, because then it's kind of just diminishing. But in order to just control all that completely, I just don't spend. And so between not spending basically, and being frugal, and doing things like PI, project discovery, doing mining, all that stuff adds up over time. Now, I didn't get to my net worth overnight. It's been several years in the making. Even before I started focusing on net worth, I had a lot of assets. You know, I had Rorquals, I had carriers, all these things that I had a lot of my net worth in assets. But once I started focusing really on net worth, I just kind of like moved all that stuff I wasn't using from asset form to ISK, and then eventually into plex. The reason I hold in plex is because, let's say you have 10 billion in ISK. If you walk away from the game for 8 months, when you come back, you still are going to have 10 billion ISK. So I end up taking, every time I hit 10 billion ISK, I just, you know, put up a buy order in JITA for plex, and then put that plex into my plex wallet and just hold it. That's kind of a one-way street for me, since I'm focusing on net worth. Once I buy plex, it usually, I pretty much never sell the plex back for ISK. It just kind of stays there. But that 10 billion in plex over the course, let's say you step away again for 8 months, you come back and plex has gone up in value, your 10 billion is at least worth a little bit more. It can be worth less too, but that's just kind of like how that goes in terms of like investing and things like that. But that's why you see a crazy plex value on my tune, because that is essentially funds that are not going to move anytime soon. So hopefully that answers some questions, because I always see like those comments where people like watch the video and they see the amount of plex I have and they like, holy shit, or why, how, all that. And it's just, I'm frugal. I really don't like spending ISK. I really don't like buying ships or modules. I've been using the same, this is the newer Mackinac that we're in right now, because we're in the starter system for the industry tune. But the Mackinac we bought a year ago for this series, we're still using it. I still have the Venture from episode 1 that we're still using. I've been using the same prospect across, the series going into Poshmark and stuff. And that's really another like mark of accomplishment too, is like, instead of just being okay with like, not paying attention and losing ships and whatever, I spend a lot of energy in avoiding ship losses so that I don't have to replace ships, because mining ships are expensive. Everything is so expensive now. Inflation is through the roof, and anything I can do to alleviate any sort of expense on my operations is welcomed, right? It's just definitely something that I focus a lot on. And I think it's just good practice too. It doesn't even, not even just for mining, but like if you're doing nullsec ratting or nullsec PvE and you're running like a Marauder or something like that, you don't want to, even more so for nullsec across the board. Because if you lose like a ship in nullsec and you don't have a backup, then you could be down a couple of days waiting for your jump freighter contract to come back through to kind of get you back up. That's another reason why you spend a lot more in nullsec, because you don't want to be down for those couple of days it might take to get new shipment from JITA. So you're trying to be proactive in the sense that like, okay, if I'm running Marauders and I happen to lose one, I need to make sure I can have a backup to run until I get another replacement out. Or if you're building them, waiting for that job to get done. So you can end up spending a lot, and you can end up holding a lot of assets just because it's not easy to just get that replacement right away. Since we operate, currently we're operating in high sec, it's not really a big issue, right? We can take a crane out to a trade hub and kind of grab what we need and be back up same day if need be. But there's really no point in holding a lot of assets. Also, I move around a lot too, and that's another thing, is like the more assets you have, and let's say you need to move regions or you need to move systems, that's moving stuff around in Eve is an art in and of itself, because I never really just throw everything into a freighter and gate that thing all the way where I need to go, right? That would be ridiculous. You're one cargo scan away from just losing it all. I usually try to break everything up into smaller runs if that's the case, but also don't operate with like a lot of that stuff either. I think the most I usually do is like an Orca with like a couple of mining ships in it and some backup modules and stuff like that. And that goes right back into the whole thing of just, kind of controlling. And I guess you could classify it as being a minimalist. I mean, I'm kind of a minimalist in real life anyway, and that definitely translates down to how I kind of operate in Eve as well. It almost gives me anxiety just having a bunch of like assets that I have to worry about. Having a lot of ISK in my wallet is not a big deal, because that's easy to move. It's also really easy to like acquire plex too when you sell it, because when JITA, I will put up a buy order and do it like 40 jumps, because if you did like a 40 jump remote order and somebody fills that 39 jumps from JITA, then yeah, you're for any other item other than plex, you'd have to fly out to that location and pick it up and then get it to where your stockpile is or whatever your inventory is. For plex, it doesn't matter. If they fill that order 40 jumps from JITA, it's still going to go into my plex wallet. I don't have to do any crazy traveling. So the reach I have with converting that stuff, converting ISK into plex is really, really easy. This system is super active today. You can't see local, but I mean, it's a starter system, so there's always like 22 plus people in here doing stuff. But I've kind of set up shop here with the industry tune, just because there's a good market and industry NPC station here, so I can kind of build this stuff and then I can post it on market. And also it's a 0.1 or whatever, so I don't have to worry about rats. I can just kind of sit here with lasers on and just kind of ramble while mining and stuff like that. But I didn't really have a whole lot more to talk about today. I know I don't really talk about the amount of plex that you see on screen a lot. I mean, obviously I talk about like my net worth goal, but it's kind of boring, and it might be like counterintuitive to a lot of people who are like, if they, train into a new ship and they have ISK, then they want to experience that, and that's fine. And I have nothing against any of that. I'm not saying don't buy stuff, don't experience different ships and different types of gameplay. It's just, for me personally, and a lot of what you see on this channel is because of the amount of, funds that I have available to me. I'm able to do things that most people wouldn't do, like mine Veldspar and Highsec. If you're still kind of coming up and you're still kind of wanting to experience a lot, then I do recommend going out into nullsec, going to Poshvin, going to lowsec. But after a while, once you kind of experienced all of those things for the sake of experiencing them, you really start to kind of focus down on what is important, and that's when you start really saving money. Also, having a lot of skill points helps too, right? My main has like 160 million, and then like the industry tune has like 90 or so. I probably have like over 200 million combined between everybody, which one of my biggest goals now is I'm still trying to like consolidate everybody down into I'll probably keep like 3 accounts. I always want to keep my Sino tune ready to go, because in the future I still would like to do some I would like to go and like buy a Rorqual and do some more Rorqual content in the future. It's just, until I see an opportunity in nullsec that really kind of benefits me, I'm kind of good with the situation as is now. I can sit here in Highsec, I can do PI, I can do mining, I can do industry. Obviously, going to nullsec, I can do all that stuff too. It's just kind of a different game out there, and all of that. But I try to avoid politics in EVE as much as possible. I think if I do end up going to null, it'll be to kind of like check out the new the mining, the focused mining sites out there, and kind of like mess around with that stuff, and maybe do a little bit of ice mining, just kind of scratch that itch a little bit, because it's been a minute since we've done anything crazy like that. But that's one of the other benefits of just kind of like having resources and stuff. You don't really have to get in a hurry to put yourself in a position to make crazy amounts of ISK an hour. And that's where I see a lot of people focus a lot on ISK per hour, and I'm guilty of it too. I've done videos in the past talking about ISK per hour because it is an important subject for a lot of people. A lot of people want to maximize the amount of currency they can do in a short amount of time. But more recently, I've just kind of focused away from that. I've focused on just, I know it sounds stupid, but like having fun, but also just enjoying, what you do. Because when I focused on ISK per hour habitually, that caused me that would trigger hiatuses pretty much like clockwork every few months. Now that I've been focusing more on doing whatever I want to do because I can do whatever I want to do kind of mentality, I don't really have that. I don't really burn myself out like I used to, because at the end of the day, when I log in, I know I'm just going to do whatever I feel like doing. And that's a lot of that freedom also comes from being solo, and I have friends in the game. I have people in corporations and alliances that I can go and do fleets with and stuff like that on a social level. But when it comes down to like my normal day-to-day, then yeah, I'm going to be out here and doing my thing. And there's a lot of freedom that comes from that. If you are tied to a corporation or alliance for the entirety of your EVE existence, then you are subject to those mandatory fleets. You're subject to keeping doctrine fits available, which is another source of expense as well. I save a lot on not having requirements like that. I'm not required to hold alliance or corporation level doctrine fleets. So that's one thing I don't have to spend money on. Or waiting on, slow SRP programs to finally reimburse me for a roam loss that I had. And, I don't have to worry about any of that. I am my own SRP program, essentially. So I think it's a goal. I think like if you really want to, get comfortable and just kind of like, stretch out and just have fun for a long period of time, like, you know, really set yourself up for, you know, several years, then having that mentality of, I don't know, just kind of having enough funds to do exactly what you want to do is a great goal. We're going a lot slower in this system. One, because this tune is not running MX1005, and I also don't have the observatory bonus that I normally do. So normally, you guys see in the past, I've done, like, you know, Mackinac will fill up in 21 minutes or so. It's been close to 20 minutes since we've had lasers on, I would say. Without those two things, without the implant, without the observatory bonus, we have 25 minutes to fill, which is as expected. I really need to, like, we spent a lot of trit on building the shuttles and stuff on that tune for the last run of jobs. I think it would be a good goal, good short-term goal to kind of get my industry tune back up to like 10 million trit. But I'm also trying to do like Mexilon and Pyrite kind of evenly. So like right now we're going after like Veldspar, but then we can like hit Scordite. That's all it's in this system, by the way. It's just Scordite and Veldspar. But we have other systems that we operate into where we can get Plag and Pyro to help with that stuff. So it's just kind of a day-to-day thing. It's like one day I'll do Plag, you know, one day I'll do Veldspar, and then when I can, I'll grab the other two kind of at the same time. But even the industry, unless I'm, you know, unless I have a number that I'm like going for, I trend to just, you know, like, hey, I did like a week of Veldspar, and now I'm just gonna, like, that Pyrite looks a little low, so let's go, you know, grab some, you know, Pyro, and or the Mexilon's low, let's go grab, you know, that stuff. And that's kind of how I play it. Also, you know, obviously I operate in multiple systems, not just because of OPSEC, but also just Pirate Strongholds are just ridiculous. Like, that shit needs to be nerfed for real. Like, there was a one system that I operated in had a Pirate Stronghold in it for 8 days. 8 days. Which was crazy. So that's why I have secondary and tertiary systems that I can mine in. Or, you know, if all those systems are polluted by Pirate Strongholds, then I'll go and find the nearest rare ore site, or I'll pop into an unpopulated low sec and grab some Kernite. There's always things to do. It's just sometimes, you know, first thing you get on and after reset, or in the morning. For me, reset is like, you know, basically in the morning for me. So I get to wake up every day and log in, and, you know, except for today where things are just broken, I get to, you know, log in and kind of, you know, have a fresh time at it. So hopefully CCP will figure out their stuff today. They have basically deferred the update to fix the skins indefinitely. Like, there's not even a time on there anymore. It was like 1400 well, the first one, it was like, okay, we're gonna reset at, you know, 1330, and then it was like, then it was 1400, and then now it's deferred with no time, which they'll update. Maybe after I get done recording this video, they'll have a time, but we have no server reset prompt or anything going on right now. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go ahead and get that solo mining video done today, and, you know, stop messing around. And it's like, I find it hilarious though that like the entire patch today was dedicated to making all of these improvements to Skinner, and as a result they broke Skinner. Like, can you imagine if like all of the skins that people had made up to this point, all the things that we had posted on the hub, all were just gone? That is because it's not cheap to make that stuff, you know, especially me. Like, I don't want to have to do that again. You know, between my main and the industry alt and this alt, you know, got, you know, blackout skins for pretty much everything we use. I think if everything got deleted and I had to do all that again, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably just write it off. I would have to write it off because there would be no way to come back from it. But that's just ridiculous. I haven't been on Reddit today, so I have no idea what I mean, I was on Reddit whenever it first was going on, before they announced it, when I noticed that Skinner was broken. But there was very little on there about it yet, but I'm sure it's like going crazy now. with the amount of backlash about it. And I don't think really people are concerned about Skinner being down because they can't make shit, but it's like, what the problem is all the things that people have maybe either bought or they, sequenced and for themselves not being available. Obviously, I don't think it's permanent. I don't think that like everything is gone, but it's just hilarious to me that the one thing you're kind of buffing you broke. Which is nice because like one of the things they're adding to Skinner is the ability to cancel listings on the hub, which I had some listings for my skins up and I had put them up accidentally for like 3 days instead of 30, and so I was like, okay, I'll just cancel those and then put them up for 30. Nope. Went on there, I was like, I can't even cancel listings. I have to literally wait for them to expire before I can do it again or to adjust price or whatever. So they are adding that and a bunch of other stuff too, but I don't know. I did my initial kind of Skinner investment perusing. I made the skins I want, and if I need to make them more for new alts, then I will. But other than that, not really big on it or anything. We're getting pretty close here to filling up. But I guess today in this episode just ended up being like talking about ISK, talking about savings, talking about expenses, but also just kind of like complaining about stuff being broken. But that is, I'm telling you, that's part of it though. It's like that's just game development. Like I've made my own Android game, and I've had my share of problems too, where like I've done quality testing. I've done, every kind of testing I could possibly do before pushing an update. And I put it out there, and then there's an issue. There's an unforeseeable issue that happens, whether it be on a certain platform or a certain device type. There's always a problem. Game development is just kind of like that. You fix one thing, you break 10 things. And it's unfortunate. Do I think that somebody at the level of CCP could do a little bit more, QA on releasing patches? Probably. But we don't really know the circumstances either, like what last minute change, kind of broke everything. But I would have at least probably like ran some quality checks before pushing it out and everything. But it's easy to get upset with this stuff. It doesn't matter, any game you play, there's always issues, and until you really start doing game development on yourself, with yourself, or experiencing it and figuring out all the nuances of pushing updates and patches, and it's a mess. It's not easy. I'm not defending it. I'm not defending the quality checks or lack thereof, but all I can say is, based on my own programming experience, I can see how stuff like this can happen. So, with that being said, hopefully this is like the last cycle. Yeah, there we go. Full up. Go and dock this guy. That's not bad. One quick, tour out here for some Feldspar. Go see. Now it's time to go see what CCP's got going on for us and see if they've got a fix in play. But that's going to be it for this episode. So